Hi, I'm Anthony from Sydney Backyard Veggies. We're in the end of September and it's time for me to give you a spring garden update. Been busy over the last few videos, busy planting out all my spring seedlings and finishing off harvesting the rest of my winter crops. And just going to walk you through this afternoon, just show you where my patch is at and what my plans are over the next month. Over at my main bed and over the last 2 months or so, I've been progressively increasing the size of my garden, and I converted this front part here into another bed, 2 meters deep, close to about 10 meters long, so another 20 square meters of growing area. And at the front here I've planted first of this season's sweet corn. Got myself 8 rows of 5 plants, 40 plants in total. The variety here I planted is Sentinel. Planted these about 2 weeks ago. Finally got the irrigation onto them and they're doing okay. They've just started settling in. They will need a little bit of fertilizer next week or so. They've settled in quite well. I started this off as seedlings about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I'm expecting to harvest these in about early November. Moving along from the sweet corn, and I'm over at my last planting of broccoli. I reckon this is one of the nicest plantings I've had all season, mostly because of the amount of sun these are getting, the amount of fertilizer. But I've got 20 broccoli plants here waiting for them to start producing, and I'm expecting them to produce pretty soon. You can just see the heads just starting to form. Hoping that these will be finished in about 2 weeks time. I'm expecting to start harvesting these in about 2 weeks, and I'm going to clear this bed and I'm actually going to start planting. I'm not sure what I'm planting here, probably more cucumbers, maybe even more corn. I'll just continue the corn planting across the bed. I won't be planting any more broccoli from now till February. I'll start my seedlings just after New Year's Day, and I'll start planting them out just after Australia Day. And with that, just adjacent to the broccoli, I've got this last planting of celery. Now this is not doing that great. It's been struggling a bit. Now I started these off from seeds and I've got 15 plants here, as you can just see. It's got the irrigation on them. I've been getting some sort of disease. I'm assuming it's some sort of fungus. Just a lot of rain that we had earlier on really damaged these up, but it appears to be trying to outgrow it, which is great. So I'm gonna have to come through and just prune off a lot of those damaged leaves. Probably another round of fertilizer on these, and I'm hoping to get these harvested by November as well, November, December, but we'll see how they go. Moving to the back of the sweet corn, and here is this season's broad beans. Now I have harvested the first batch of these, and there's still a few more beans that are growing. These are small ones, but this will be all cleared out by next week. Been a relatively productive season for broad beans. I really struggled because of the sun comes from the north, which is that direction. All the plants tend to lean towards the sun, so I've had to put in a lot of these struts to support them, and I've done somewhat pretty well. But the plants are actually really tall. You can just see how tall they are. I think that becomes a problem because I do plant these quite early. The earlier you plant, I find the taller the plants get. I planted these out in March. I've actually earmarked this for some sweet corn, but also my cherry tomato seedlings, which I'm growing at the moment. I'll just plant them along the front edge of the bed here. And adjacent to the broad beans, I've got the last of this season's cauliflower. Really happy. Again, late season cauliflower. Planted these out in July, and I'm expecting these to be ready to harvest in about 4 weeks time. 20 plants in this location. The variety is called Serenity, and a really good performer. Nice big white heads. Adjacent to them, I've got my silver beet. Now I expected these silver beet to bolt. I always find that when you plant silver beet in autumn, by the time it comes to September, October, it bolts. This hasn't, and I just gave them a big harvest a couple of days ago. And it looked beautiful. Like this is a real staple in my garden. Try to grow as much as I can of it. Yeah, family and friends all take a lot of it. When I harvest my silver beet, always add a lot of fertilizer afterwards, whether it's liquid fertilizer or chicken manure pellets, really encouraging it to produce more and more new leaves. And adjacent to those silver beets is this season's tomatoes. These were planted, now this is week 4, so it's been about a month in. You can just see how beautiful the growth is. This variety is Thunder. Got 12 plants, I believe, in this location. 2 rows, 12 plants in total. And they're going to fill up this whole spot in no time. They've got these rows at 80 centimeter spacings and 60 centimeter spacings within the rows. They are due for a stake, and I'm just running out of time at the moment to stake them. And they need some fertilizer. Really happy with how they're progressing at the moment. As long as the rain holds off, they shouldn't get too much more damage. As you can see, just that earlier damage from the rains that we had in late August really shook them up. And next to those tomatoes is the first of 2 plantings of cucumbers. Here I planted the Green Dragon, which is the burpless variety of cucumbers, and adjacent to them I planted Magway, which is the slicing variety. Again, 2 rows of 9 plants. I'm expecting these to germinate in about 5-6 days time. Over at the back part of the main bed, and over here I've got this season's eggplants planted out. 6 in the bed, and I planted them about 4 weeks ago as well. Variety is called Monocasa. It's the big Italian, black Italian variety of eggplants that you see generally at the shops. Yeah, look, no complaints so far. Seem to be on a fair bit of size. They also do need staking and fertilizing soon, so I'll probably do that next week as well. And next to them I've got this season's capsicums, 8 plants here in total. This variety is called Harley, and I planted these quite early. I planted these the last week of August, and I just started to put on a bit of size slowly as the weather's warming up. But again, like the tomatoes at the front, these got impacted by the rains that we had in early September. Interplanted with them is my radishes, and they're almost ready to harvest. As you can just see right there, the radishes are Scarlet Globe, great producer. I'm trying to actually see how late I can plant these before it gets too hot, but so far they're looking pretty good. They're still producing now, so I'm going to be planting a few more interplanted radishes between these longer season plants. Moving across, and this is another planting of cucumbers. This time this is the Lebanese style cucumbers. The variety is called Craig. Planted 10 plants in total, and again this was planted a couple of days before the other planting, so I'm expecting these to germinate in another 3 to 4 days, and hopefully I'll have a lot of cucumbers coming through the garden at the moment. And next to the remnant cabbages that I've got left over, and these will be harvested in the next few days. Got my yellow capsicums on the right, got my jalapenos on the left, and some bush beans. These jalapenos, the variety is called Jedi, one I plant every year. Again, these are doing great at the moment. They do need fertilizer. Likewise, the Agostini, which is the yellow blocky type capsicum. I've only got 4 there, and yeah, it's also putting on a bit of size as well. This is one of my plantings of jade bush beans. This is a green stringless bean variety, and I've been trying to plant a lot more of this in my garden. These are planted out as seedlings about 2.5 weeks ago, and the idea is I'm going to be pulling out these broad beans and continuing the plantings, but I will be direct seeding the rows as opposed to growing seedlings and planting them out. Moving on to the back part of the bed, and this is my other plant of tomatoes. Again, another 10 seedlings here. These were planted in the last week of August. The variety is Dankia, and like the Thunders are starting to grow pretty fast. They need staking very soon. These were planted a week before the Thunder, so they need staking and fertilizer. I've also got more interplanted radishes, same varieties, Crimson Globe, and I've got 3 rows here, and they will be ready to harvest in about 3.5-4 weeks time. And adjacent to those tomatoes, I've got my bush bean patch, 7 rows, and I all planted these as seedlings. The first 4.5 rows are Italian Romano, which is a flat bean, continental bean, which needs to be stewed when you eat it. Another 2 rows here is more jade bush beans, stringless bush beans. Yeah, they're just shooting away. You can start seeing a little bit of flowers just showing up there, but overall, this is just every week you just seem to see these just grow bigger and bigger, and they're just looking amazing. Really happy with the crop, how it looks so far. And I may just give them one more application of nitrogen. I had given them an application of nitrogen fertilizer about 2 weeks ago. They do need another feed now, and that will be it in terms of fertilization. Harvesting these, I reckon mid-October, mid to just late October will be the latest. I'll be starting to harvest the first flush of beans of these plants. And over in this corner, I got my second last planting of broccoli. This broccoli was planted earlier than the broccoli at the front, but you can just see from the size, the fact that I don't get much sun in this spot for a while, they took a lot longer to grow. But good news is a lot more sun now is coming as the days are getting longer. And I was just checking on the before, and I'm starting to get broccoli. So I'll be harvesting broccoli from this bed in about a week and a half's time. And I'll be clearing this bed as well soon enough to plant beans, and I'll be looking at planting basil. On my fruit tree front, avocado is absolutely covered in flowers, and you can just see it's just all these flowers are opening, and I'm just hoping this year's the year that I actually going to get some fruit off this. I've had this tree for 8 years, and it flowers like this every year, and every year I don't get a single fruit. I'm gonna give it one more go this year. I've taken a lot of advice from all you viewers. I should keep the tree, give it a go another year, but I'm really tempted to, if it doesn't produce this year, I'm just going to cut it and make up this space, because it is shadowing the garden throughout the winter time, and it's just killing the space. If it produces this year, I may give it a bit of a reprieve and let it last. But as you can see, it's amazing how much it's covered, absolutely covered in flowers, but I just can't get it to produce. And then over my lemon tree, gave it a big prune this year. Now it's just starting to get bigger again, and added the fertilizer and so forth, and it's full of flowers. Still got to take some of that old fruit off it, but it's looking really looking amazing. It's just putting a lot of height again. I need to be aware of the fact that you're going to start getting citrus bugs, distinct bugs. They will be starting to suck on these tender growths soon enough, and I will be treating it with a few sprays, especially pyrethrum and another systemic spray to make sure I keep those at bay, because once they sting your lemons and you harvest them later, they do have that black mark inside, and it just makes it useless. Mango tree is in full flower now. Hoping that every year it's been a reliable producer. I did tip prune this earlier on, hoping it's going to produce. It's got the irrigation on it. Hopefully it does hold. I'm just worried about any chocolate spot or anything like that comes through the plants, but it's looking okay. I gave it a real big prune just to clear it out from the inside. It was getting quite congested inside the plant, but I'll keep you posted. It's starting to get too tall again, so I might have to tip prune the tops to make sure the plant stays down. I don't want to be having to climb ladders to harvest those fruit. Over at my west facing beds, and I've still got the last of my broad beans over here. This is done. We had a first pick last week. Parents will come through and clear out the rest of them. Still a few beans left over, but this will be cleared. And I'm actually looking at potentially extending the chicken pen out to give them a little bit more space, a bit more roaming space around here in this bed. It's actually quite a difficult bed to grow in. It's quite hot and the soil is not that great, so that's the plan for this space. Moving along from there, and this is my late season planting of coriander, and this needs to be harvested. It's starting to get too long now, and you can see if you grow, you can grow coriander right and it won't bolt, so you need to grow it fast, give it a lot of water and make sure it grows quickly and a lot of fertilizer. And I'm going to harvest this whole, so it hasn't got a chance to bolt, and I'll be clearing this bed. And I'm actually going to be trying to plant molahia, which is a Lebanese fruit. It's called Egyptian spinach, I believe it's called in English, and I'll be planting this whole bed out with Egyptian spinach. This season's parsley patch is in full swing. It's beautiful. I need to give it its first cut. Dad's going to come sort that out for me on the weekend, but I'm really happy how it took. It struggled a bit in the rains as well that we had early in the season. In August most of it died off, but thankfully it's all bounced back and it's looking absolutely amazing. Over next to them, late season leeks, and I'm going to run the risk now of these bolting, and so I'm going to start harvesting them. I'm looking at harvesting them at this size. I don't need them to get any thicker than that. especially for a late season planting. Just enough that we can use them in a meal. And I'll be progressive harvesting these because once they bolt, they get really fibrous and you can't use them. And then here I have my overwintered jalapenos, and they're producing. They're already getting jalapenos. I just saw one here just before. If I could show you. There it is. Just a nice little jalapeno there, full of flowers, and it seems that they've done pretty well. I think I might have lost one or two of the plants, but they're looking beautiful. This is my volunteer tomato, and I've got to prune it. It's eaten up the whole space, but it's looking beautiful. It's got heaps of beautiful flowers. I actually don't know what variety it is, but we'll see how it goes. I might just leave it here just to see what I can harvest of it, but it does need to be properly staked. Over at my southern beds, and it's pretty much all trees at the moment here. I haven't started planting these beds yet, but I've got my fig tree. It's just come to life. It's got the early crop coming through, which is great. You can just see that, and a couple of other ones over here, so I'm really happy with that. Got to keep the spray on it. I was getting a lot of thrips earlier on in the season, so just got to keep sure I stay at the sprays just to keep knocking out those thrips, because they can really cause a lot of havoc. And also the scale. I had to clear a lot of scale off this plant earlier in the season, and just making sure if you've got a fig tree, just check out for those two things. Make sure there's not much thrips, no thrips showing, and no scale. In the imperial mandarin tree, just keeps getting better and better, this tree. It's full of flowers this year. Beautiful, absolute beautiful tree. And it produces big fruit. And I'm actually thinking it may have too many flowers here. I'm just anxious that it may start producing slightly smaller fruit this time around. I've harvested the last of the fruit. There's still a few left over from my late season flush, but yeah, really happy how it looks. I've still got the frame in because I find that as the tree gets loaded with fruit, they tend to break. So just put a little bit of structure in there just to support the branches so that when they get loaded, they don't break. And then finally, I'm over at my persimmon tree. Just again, you can just see it's just starting to show the flowers. And persimmons grow their flowers on new growth, so you can just see all the tips growing. Heaps of flowers. Hopefully I'm trying to get a lot more fruit off this tree. I need a prune. There's a lot of dead wood just down here on the lower levels, which I'm going to be removing progressively just over here and clean it all up. Hoping for a big season in persimmons, and again making sure the fruit flies. I had a lot of problems with fruit flies last year, so I'm going to net it as well to make sure I keep on top of the fruit flies. So my garden plans for the next month. Now I've already planted out a lot of my long season plants, my eggplants, my tomatoes, my capsicums. I've also started planting first of many succession plantings of corn, of cucumbers, stuff like that. What I am looking at doing is starting to plant more beans. I need to get more bush beans, and I want to get my bologna beans in the ground, so I'm looking at starting to plant those out on my southern beds. And I'll probably do that in about 2 weeks time when I'm 100% sure that the soil is warm enough for them to germinate. And I'm going to be planting out, starting up another late season round of tomatoes. It's still a bit early, probably in about 3 weeks time, start my late season tomatoes. And I've decided this year I want to start some late season capsicums as well. And I want to get them done started at that end of October for planting out by the end of November. I need to also start planting out my watermelons and my pumpkins. I've already started some seedlings, and I'll get them planted out. I'm actually leaving them a bit late. I would like to have had them in the ground by now. Zucchinis need to be planted out as well. I haven't got any zucchinis in the ground, so that's another thing I'll be planting out in the next 2 weeks. Besides that, it's more now just staying on top of the watering, staying on top of the pests, making sure I'm adding fertilizer to my plants, and just really enjoying the push through spring and all the spring weather that we've been having. So I'm really excited. Can't wait to start showing everyone the progress in my tomatoes and my cucumbers over the next few weeks and months. Look, thank you very much everyone for joining me in this video. I really appreciate your support. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on a comment in this video or via a message on TikTok or Instagram. Thank you very much everyone for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one.